Samantha Carter stepped into the office building with a quiet sense of hope tucked beneath her nerves. At 28, she had spent the last 8 years serving in the Army. She had seen things most people wouldn't understand, and done things she'd never brag about. Now she was trading in her combat boots for dress shoes, starting her first civilian job since leaving the military. The company had looked perfect on paper. They advertised themselves as veteran-friendly and proud supporters of women in the workplace. Their website showed smiling employees and team photos at charity runs. Sam thought maybe, just maybe, she had found a place where she could grow roots. She had found out she was pregnant just a few weeks earlier. It had been a surprise, but not a bad one. The timing wasn't perfect, but she felt ready for the challenge. She had faced tougher battles than morning sickness. Still, she decided not to tell anyone at the office yet. It was too soon, and she wanted to prove herself first. Her new role was in operations, mostly project planning and scheduling. It wasn't exciting, but it was steady, and that's what Sam needed now. She worked hard from the start, showing up early and staying late when needed. Her reports were clear, her deadlines were met, and her attitude remained calm, even when others complained. She didn't talk much about her time in the Army. If people asked, she gave short, polite answers. Some coworkers seemed curious, but no one pushed too far. Sam didn't mind. She liked the quiet. She was used to following rules, staying focused, and earning respect through actions, not words. On her lunch breaks, she'd sit outside with a turkey sandwich and a book, enjoying the feeling of normal life. She liked the quiet hum of keyboards and phones, the smell of fresh coffee in the break room, and the way her name looked on her new ID badge. For the first time in a long while, Sam allowed herself to believe this could be a new beginning, a safe place to land after the storms she'd been through. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have guessed, was how fast that hope would be tested, and just how far someone would go to try and take it away. Sam first met Mr. Douglas during her interview. He had a firm handshake, a tight smile, and eyes that never quite softened. Still, he had said all the right things. He talked about valuing structure, discipline, and loyalty, words that meant something to someone like Sam. At the time, she thought they might even get along, but it didn't take long for her to see his true colors. Mr. Douglas was the kind of boss who liked control. He interrupted people often, especially women. During meetings, he rolled his eyes when Sam used direct language or gave firm answers. When she offered solutions based on her experience leading teams in the military, he'd say things like, "We don't need combat strategies here, Carter." He laughed, but the tone wasn't friendly. Sam kept her head down. She told herself not to take it personally. Maybe he just needed time to adjust to her style. She continued doing her job well, better than expected actually. A few coworkers even complimented her work, whispering they were glad someone finally got things organized. Then one day after a meeting, a quiet voice stopped her in the hallway. It was Jenna, a kind woman from HR who always smiled at the front desk. "Just watch your back with Mr. Douglas," Jenna said softly. "You didn't hear that from me, okay?" Sam blinked, unsure how to respond. "Thanks," she said finally. She started noticing more after that. Mr. Douglas seemed to praise others for ideas Sam had suggested first. He left her out of key conversations and skipped over her when assigning leadership roles in projects. It wasn't loud or obvious, it was subtle, small things that made her feel invisible. At first she wondered if she was imagining it, but deep down she knew. This wasn't about her work, this was personal. Still, she kept going. She needed this job for herself, and now for the tiny life growing inside her. Sam believed that if she just worked hard enough, stayed respectful enough, she could win him over. But Mr. Douglas had already made up his mind, and nothing Sam did was going to change it. By the start of her second month at the company, Sam knew she couldn't keep her pregnancy a secret much longer. The morning sickness had been rough, though she did her best to hide it. She kept ginger chews in her drawer, and drank more water than coffee. She took shorter lunches just to keep up. She didn't want anyone thinking she was slacking, not even for a minute. She had practiced how she'd say it. Calm, professional, simple. One afternoon she knocked on Mr. Douglas's office door. He looked up from his computer and waved her in without speaking. "I wanted to let you know something important," she said, standing straight with her hands gently folded. I'm pregnant. It's still early, but I wanted to be honest. I'm planning ahead and I'm committed to staying on track with my work. Mr. Douglas didn't respond at first. He leaned back slowly in his chair, lips tight, eyes scanning her face like he was searching for something he didn't like. Well, he said, finally, that's noted. Sam nodded, hoping for more, maybe even a simple congratulations. But it never came. She left the room with her heart a little heavier than when she entered. Things changed after that. Not all at once, but steadily. Mr. Douglas began giving her more tasks than usual, the kind of grunt work he used to hand off to interns. Reports that needed rewriting, notes he claimed were missing. He criticized her tone in emails, called her into his office over small mistakes, and told her she needed to sharpen up if she wanted to stay ahead. He stopped including her in weekly planning meetings. One morning, she found out a project she had been leading was given to someone else, without warning, without reason. Sam didn't say anything. She knew better than to lash out. In the army, she had learned that some battles were won by standing tall and staying quiet. But this wasn't war, this was supposed to be work. A normal job. A fresh start. Still, every day she pushed herself to keep going. She smiled when she didn't feel like it. She answered emails faster. She worked through lunch. She told herself it would pass. But deep down, something told her it wouldn't. Something told her she was being pushed out, just because she was pregnant. And she wasn't wrong. It happened on a Thursday. The sky outside was gray, and the office felt colder than usual. Sam had just finished triple-checking a report when Mr. Douglas sent her a message. Can you come to my office? Her stomach dropped. She walked in calmly, trying to stay steady. He didn't ask her to sit. I've reviewed your performance, he said, his tone flat. And I've decided to let you go, effective today. Sam froze. What? Have I done something wrong? He barely looked at her. You're just not meeting expectations. We need someone who can keep up. Her throat tightened. Sir, I've never missed a deadline. My work's been solid. I haven't had any warnings. This isn't a debate, he snapped. You'll get a 2-week severance. HR will handle the rest. That was it. No real reason. No conversation, no paperwork showing poor performance. Just like that, she was done. Sam left the office in a daze, her heart pounding, eyes burning with held-back tears. She walked to her car like a ghost, numb and quiet. Once inside, she let the tears fall. She held her stomach, thinking of the tiny heartbeat growing inside her, and felt like she had failed both of them. She called her best friend Kayla, who came to meet her in the parking lot. He can't do that, Kayla said, wrapping her in a hug. You've done nothing wrong. I don't know what to do, Sam whispered. I thought this place was different. I thought I'd finally found somewhere I belonged. Kayla looked her in the eye. You're not alone, you've got people. And you've got your brother. That night, Sam lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. She hadn't told her brother yet. He was overseas, stationed in Germany, but they talked when they could. She picked up her phone and called. When Daniel answered, his voice was calm and warm. Hey Sammy. Everything okay? She didn't cry, she didn't yell, she just told him everything. What happened, how it started after she told them about the baby, how Mr. Douglas hadn't even tried to hide it. There was a pause on the other end. Then Daniel spoke, voice suddenly quiet and sharp. Send me his name, he said. And the company. That was all. Sam didn't know what he planned to do, but she knew her brother. And she knew when he used that voice, something was coming. Daniel Carter wasn't the type to shout or curse when he was angry, he didn't need to. His calm voice and steady eyes said more than loud words ever could. He had served in the army for over 12 years, and had worked his way up to lieutenant colonel. He wasn't just respected, he was connected. People listened when he spoke. He had led missions across the world, trained hundreds of soldiers, and worked directly with high-level officials. But none of that mattered more than one thing, his little sister. When Sam told him what happened, he didn't yell, or ask 100 questions. He just listened. Every word she spoke hit him hard, but he stayed calm, gathering each detail like a soldier making a plan. He already knew the kind of man Mr. Douglas was, even without meeting him. Daniel had dealt with men like that before, ones who used their power to step on others, especially women. Ones who smiled in public, and acted cruel in private. But this time, they messed with the wrong person. Daniel hung up the phone, and immediately started making calls. First he contacted a fellow officer, who now worked with the Department of Labor, focusing on workplace protections for veterans. Then he reached out to a legal advisor at the Veterans Legal Institute, someone who owed him a favor. He even messaged a contact at a federal office that oversaw companies receiving military support funding. Because what Mr. Douglas didn't know was this. The company Sam worked for had been receiving special government funding, grants meant to help companies hire and support veterans. Firing a pregnant veteran without cause. That could bring more than just bad press. That could trigger a full investigation. Meanwhile, Sam stayed quiet. She didn't ask what Daniel was doing. She trusted him. But she felt torn. Part of her just wanted to move on, to forget the pain. Another part wanted justice, not just for herself, but for every woman who'd been made to feel small. One evening, Daniel called her again. His voice was lighter this time. "Just sit tight," he said. "You won't have to lift a finger." "But what's going to happen?" Sam asked. "You'll see," he replied. "Let's just say some people are about to start paying attention." Sam didn't know the full plan. But for the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in a while. Over the next 2 weeks, quiet waves started moving behind the scenes, waves that Mr. Douglas never saw coming. First, a letter arrived at the company's HR department. It was formal and direct. It stated that a complaint had been filed by the Department of Labor, connected to a possible violation of the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act. The letter requested copies of hiring policies, termination records, and any documentation related to Sam Carter's employment and firing. Then came the emails, from lawyers representing a veterans advocacy group. They requested a meeting with company leadership to discuss discrimination against veterans and pregnant employees. They mentioned the possibility of misuse of veteran hiring grants, which if proven, could lead to fines, or worse. Mr. Douglas was stunned. He stormed through the office, shouting about ridiculous accusations and soft employees making noise. But what scared him most wasn't the noise. It was who was making it. Some of the letters came with powerful names attached, people high up in the army. People who knew Daniel Carter. People Mr. Douglas couldn't ignore. Word spread fast in the office. Whispers filled break rooms. Co-workers who had once stayed silent now remembered things. Offhand comments Mr. Douglas had made, meetings where Sam was left out, the way she was suddenly buried in work after sharing her pregnancy news. Jenna, the kind woman from HR, quietly reached out to the investigators. She told them everything she'd seen, and what she'd been too scared to report before. One morning, Mr. Douglas walked into his office and found 2 men in suits waiting for him. They showed him IDs, opened files, and started asking questions. He laughed at first. By the end of the meeting, he wasn't laughing anymore. Outside the building, Sam sat in her car. She hadn't been back since the day she was fired. But something had pulled her there, some strange mix of nerves and curiosity. She didn't get out, she just sat and watched as Mr. Douglas walked out the front doors later that afternoon, his face pale, his tie loose, and a folder tucked under his arm. He looked smaller somehow. Defeated. Sam didn't smile. She didn't need to. Sometimes justice doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes it shows up dressed in silence, with sharp edges and steady hands. And this time, it was just getting started. Within a week, the company's name started showing up online, for all the wrong reasons. A local news station picked up the story first. Veteran fired. After announcing pregnancy, federal investigation underway. The article didn't name Sam, but people who worked there knew exactly who it was. The story included quotes from advocacy groups and legal experts. It talked about the law, the risks companies take when firing protected employees, and how this case might become a powerful example of what not to do. Then came the bigger stories. National outlets ran with the headline. A few veteran-led podcasts discussed it. On social media, people were furious. Dozens of women shared their own experiences. Some had been fired while pregnant. Others had been ignored or pushed out after military service. Sam's story gave them the courage to speak up. Inside the company, things were falling apart. Mr. Douglas was placed on administrative leave while the investigation continued. A temporary manager stepped in, and staff meetings were suddenly filled with tense faces and awkward silences. HR held mandatory trainings on workplace rights, but everyone knew it was too little too late. Sam stayed home during all of this. She watched the news stories, her phone buzzing non-stop with messages. Former co-workers sent her texts of support. Strangers reached out online, thanking her for standing strong, even when she hadn't meant to become a symbol. She didn't feel brave. She just felt tired. The stress had been heavy, and she worried constantly about how it might affect the baby. But every night, her brother called her, checking in from overseas. He told her how proud he was. How she had done nothing wrong. How everything she'd built inside herself, her strength, her dignity, her grace, was still fully intact. Then came the call from her lawyer. "We have a settlement offer," he said. "They're offering 6 months' pay, full health coverage through your due date, and a public apology. But only if you agree not to sue." Sam took a deep breath. The money would help. The apology would feel good. But part of her hesitated. What if she could do more? What if she could make real change? Her lawyer seemed to read her thoughts. "You can take this deal," he said gently. "Or, we can go further." Sam looked out the window. The sky was turning soft with evening light. "I want to go further," she said. Because this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every woman who'd ever been told she didn't belong. Sam's decision to move forward shook the company harder than they expected. Her legal team filed an official federal discrimination lawsuit, backed by both the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission (EEOC) and multiple veterans groups. They didn't just focus on her wrongful termination, they highlighted a pattern of behavior. Other employees came forward. Some anonymously, some brave enough to go public. Stories matched. Records lined up. Emails were found. The case quickly became more than just about Sam, it became a national story. Talk shows invited legal experts to discuss pregnancy rights and veteran protections. Schools and companies started using her case in training sessions. One college professor even called it the modern Rosa Parks moment for veterans in the workforce. Sam didn't like the attention, but she didn't shy away from it either. She gave one interview, just one. Her voice was calm, steady and real. "I didn't want to be a symbol," she said. "I just wanted to work hard, earn my paycheck, and take care of my baby. But if speaking up helps someone else, then I'll speak. Because no woman should have to choose between a career and a child, and no veteran should have to prove their worth again after serving their country." The interview went viral, and the public stood with her. Soon after, the company's board of directors made a final decision. Mr. Douglas was officially fired. His exit was quiet but final. He lost his severance, his title, and perhaps worst of all, his reputation. No company would touch him now. His name was forever linked to the story that changed everything. Meanwhile, Sam got calls, not just from news outlets, but from other companies. Real offers. Respectful offers. One came from a non-profit that helped veterans transition to civilian life, offering her a role as a project manager and mentor. She said yes. The new job felt different. It felt honest. Her team respected her. They didn't just value her background, they leaned on it. They gave her space to grow, and when she shared that she was expecting, they didn't flinch. They celebrated. Months passed. Sam's belly grew, and one sunny morning she gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Hope. Daniel flew in just in time to meet his niece. When he held the baby, his eyes softened. "You did it," he whispered to Sam. "You stood your ground." Sam smiled, exhausted but strong. "No," she said. "We did."